right, everyone. Welcome back to
Unknown,
Unsolved
unseen.
Triple U.
Woohoo!
Did it with a little bit of an accent this time. I'm trying to change it up.
Fair enough. Well, then, I'm Frank,
I'm Sage.
and we're your lovely hosts.
Yep, and then we've got a third party in here again. It's Atlas. If you hear him,
He's not been banished to the crate this time.
yes, he is really chewing a compressed wood stick. So,
Whew. Good boy, Atlas. Good boy.
yeah. Do you have any announcements?
Well, usual announcements. What's called festivals coming up. Pennhurst Paracon this upcoming weekend, which we'll be at, hence this episode coming up. The Craft and Monster Festival and Saucers Over Appalachia on the third weekend of June, the weekend of the 14th, and then from the 12th to the 15th, of June, you have Windy City Parafest, where you can either get tickets to go there in person or live stream tickets. Those are available on the link in our show notes or on the link tree on our Instagram. Use code UUU for 10% off your live stream tickets. A portion of the proceeds go towards Greater Than Hate, which is a nonprofit working for those who are marginalized by hate groups. I would highly recommend getting your live stream tickets because we will too. You get to view all days of it, and you also get to save those recordings and look at them later. And if you can go in person, I'd highly recommend that because, man, I'd love to go there in person.
Yeah, I wish we could make it out this year, but circumstances won't let us. So hopefully it comes around.
Yep, and if you're interested in what's all going on at the Windy City Pear Fest, check out our episode 29 about the Windy. No, I think it's actually 27. I think it's 27 Windy City Pear Fest.
No, I think it's 26.
26, yeah, because odd numbers are me. Episode 26 if you want to know more information about it. That's about all I have for announcements.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about the infamous Pennhurst Asylum, or what was the Pennhurst State School and Hospital, then originally known as the Eastern Pennsylvania State Institution for the Feeble-Minded and Epileptic. And thank God it's not known as that anymore, because that's a sad name.
Feeble-minded.
Yep. So along that line, before we begin, I want to offer trigger warnings for physical and mental abuse, like pretty significantly towards those who were disabled, and pretty horrendous use of foul language to describe these patients. And I want to make it clear that this is not language that I condone, but it was the language of the time. And I feel it's important to be clear in the history as to why this facility was disgraceful to the mental health community. So I'll be using quotes from people that worked there at the time, or like governing bodies, things like that, that have some words in there that I don't agree with, but it is the words that they use to describe it.
And that is quite the trigger warning. And also, for anybody wondering if you want to know where the sources are for any of this, go check out the show notes.
Yep. That is where we'll always put our sources if we, ever forget to say that. It's usually down there. And there's going to be some sources in here that I will shout out that I think are important for everybody to go check out. So.
Yeah, and I've been trying to remember to mention that every time.
Yeah. So Pennhurst Institution was a state-run facility for those who were mentally and physically disabled, and it's located in southeastern Pennsylvania, near Spring City, so north of Philadelphia.
Woo, Pennsylvania!
If I recall, it's Chester County.
I believe you're right. Now, let me think. Pennsylvania. Is this our third episode in Pennsylvania?
At this point, I have no idea.
We've done Carbondale and the Smurl family hauntings.
Yep.
This is our third PA one. I wonder if we have some PA bias out here.
Sounds like we might. So in 1903, the Pennsylvania legislature authorized the creation of the Eastern State Institution for the Feeble-Minded and Epileptic. This was the second Pennsylvania institution geared towards helping disabled individuals. The first was the Polk Center in Polk, PA, but it was much smaller, and they felt that it was needed to have a bigger facility.
Where's Polk?
I have no idea. I think it's somewhere north.
So 1903, that's also not that long ago.
No, and honestly, this place didn't really even close that long ago. It was in the 80s.
Wow, that actually so recent compared to, like, you look at stuff like Eastern State, which that went to 60s?
Something like that.
Oh yeah, that's the fourth PA thing we've actually done. So this is number 4.
Oh, that's right. I forgot we did that. I
Yeah.
literally did that episode. So a commission was created to take into consideration the number and status of individuals in the state who needed specialized care.
So like a registry of people who need special care.
Yep.
That's never a good thing.
No.
Under any circumstance, you should not have a registry for people you think need corrective care.
Yeah. They also needed to identify a quote, tract of land which shall be good arable land, well adapted to the preservation of the health and the occupation and maintenance of the inmates of said institution. Inmates. They use the word inmates.
But yet they're like supposed to need medical or psychological help, but they're inmates.
Yep.
So an already negative connotation to people who should not have a negative connotation on them.
Yep. So this commission discovered 1,146 feeble-minded persons and insane in hospitals in the state, and 2,627 in almshouses, county care hospitals, reformatories, and prisons who were in immediate need of special institutional care. The legislation determined that the buildings on the ground would be in 2 groups, one for the education and industrial department, and one for the custodial or asylum department. Other subdivisions on the property would be classified and separated to allow for many diverse forms of the infirmity to be treated. And the plan was also for there to be 1 or more schoolhouses, a gymnasium and a drill hall, a workshop, and an isolation hospital. I am assuming for tuberculosis, but I'm not sure. The institution was required to accommodate no fewer than 500 inmates or patients, with room for additions. And Wesley White, the former president of the American Association of Medical Dosimetrists, was appointed as the superintendent of the facility. So, between 1903 and 1908, buildings were constructed on what they called the lower campus and then the upper campus. Numerous farm buildings were also completed in the first wave of construction, as well as a sewage plant and a power plant.
So power plant just for here.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
It's a big facility. Like when we go see it, it's gonna we're gonna be. I think we'll be surprised how big it is.
Do you think it's going to be larger than Moundsville or Eastern State?
It could be. I'm not sure.
Those-
This Pennhurst campus is 634 acres. That's obviously not all buildings. It has 30 buildings though. Architect Philip H. Johnson designed the structures out of terracotta, granite, and red brick, and then it was connected by fireproof tunnels and walkways.
So, quick question here. How many acres again did you say it was?
It is 634
Acres.
acres.
Well, into Moundsville. Moundsville covers 19 acres. What? Because Eastern State Penitentiary is 10 acres. So Pennhurst
Yeah, I'm reading it's 112. It might be small. I wonder if it's smaller now.
At open 112, at close 1400.
Okay, so it's one of those numbers. My source said 634, but maybe that was.
I see 633 as well.
It's a big lot. Even 112 or whatever is
yeah,
huge.
that's 10 times more than over 10 times more than what's it called? Eastern State, and Moundsville is 19, and I thought those were large.
Yeah, so when we go there next weekend, we're going to be very surprised, I think.
Wow. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to fact check you there, but I wanted to see.
No, that's probably good.
I wanted the comparison and then found out there are 3 different numbers we found, but still, that's huge compared to everything else.
Yeah, that's massive. So massive, actually, that the Pennsylvania Railroad created a Pennhurst station on its Schuylkill division.
Schuylkill.
Schuylkill.
I think it's Schuylkill. There's Schuylkill.
I've heard both, but I think
Scullykill?
definitely not that. It's definitely not Schuylkill. It's Schuyllkill. If you're not from Pennsylvania and you're listening to this, you probably think that's the most crazy word. Pennsylvania has some very interesting names for
Lancaster.
Lancaster.
I know, but obviously people fight on that one. Schuylkill, Scullykill.
Schuylkill or Schuylkill is what I've heard.
Schuylkill. What other
It's
ones?
something kill.
Yeah.
And they created a railroad station for Pennhurst.
Du Bois.
Yeah.
I was thinking one also. We also got bird in hand, middle sex, and intercourse. And blue balls.
We do. We do. But anyway,
Sorry, I just
so
had to be a little funny. PA's weird.
they created the station because the plant, or like the power plant and the buildings themselves, needed coal and other supplies. And they needed them in such large quantities, so they were delivered by railroad car. The tracks are still visible under the pavement behind the dietary and Devon halls, which allowed boxcars to be brought directly onto the main campus and directly to like the dining hall and things like that for food. The majority of them have been removed at this point and are now like from the Schuylkill like railroad line. And so now they are part of the Schuylkill River Trail. So it's one of those like train track trails where you can walk the train tracks.
So the train tracks is closed.
Yeah, because they're not used anymore. On November 23rd, 1908, patient number 1 was admitted into the facility.
That sounds so derogatory.
Yeah, and there's no information on who this patient is or anything about him.
You know also why it sounds bad? So, do you like watch or listen or read anything zombie related?
No.
Whoever like gets the
I'm not sure there's a smut of zombies.
There probably is.
That's true.
That's bordering necrophilia.
Definitely not my thing.
But the first person infected is always patient 0 or patient 1. So, like, how you say this is patient 1, I'm like, oh, all I can think about is, like, the infected person who started it all.
Yeah. But they also, there's no information on who it is. Like, I looked everywhere and I couldn't find, and I'm assuming, like, I'm saying he, but I don't know if it was he, she, whoever it was.
Maybe a dog, who knows?
Yeah.
But that's just the curious thing here. We're already barely in. We've already referred to him as inmate. Don't even have record of who the first patient was. I mean, none of that's good. All that's pretty bad.
Yep. So, following his admittance, Pennhurst began receiving a lot of patients to the facility.
And sorry, what year is the first patient?
November 23rd, 1908.
So 1903 is when they decide they need it. 1908 is when it opens.
Yes. So 5 years of construction. And it wasn't done. Their construction was being built there for the majority of the time it was open.
Well, seeing that the 112 acres to begin and it was larger after, sounds like it had construction most of its life, probably.
Yeah. So when residents were brought to the facility, you'll have to tell me if to you this sounds like something else. Residents were then classified into mental categories of imbecile or insane, into physical categories of epileptic or healthy, and into dental categories of good, poor, or treated when they were admitted.
That doesn't sound ideal. Also, like, dental categories?
Yeah. But do we remember another time and place where people would come off of
trains and be sorted out? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that these people were brought via train, but
epileptic or healthy.
If like epilepsy is like an epidemic that could be spread. Like
everybody in the world, you have two wolves inside of you. One is epileptic and one is healthy. Which one is winning?
I don't know. The one that doesn't have seizures at the first strobe light.
You're one of the many people who the healthy wolf is winning.
Sure.
Inside you. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something dumb to say.
That was dumb.
I know. Now, were patients treated differently if they were determined this?
Every patient here was treated like shit. I'm just going to be real with you. I'll go into more detail about it later, but everybody was treated like shit. So once they were classified into their different categories, they were then assigned to different jobs. So free labor, mattress making, shoemaking and repair, grading, farming, laundry, domestic duties, sewing, baking, butchering, painting, and working in the store.
I mean, like, if you're learning to do stuff for when you're outside, perfect. But if you're using them as free labor,
no, this was free labor. That does come up later in a lawsuit.
Well, that's still legal in some parts of the country, I think.
Yeah, so this free labor and not very good labor, they were doing a lot of, like, these are people who were brought here for specialized care, and then they're being forced into free labor.
Yeah, that's really good care. Hey, Mrs. Psychologist who's sitting across from me right now, Is
What?
putting somebody to labor the best way to deal with mental illness?
Absolutely not.
You're trying to tell me if I'm depressed and they stick me inside of a basically prison and tell me to learn how to do laundry, that's not going to cure my depression?
Definitely not. It's actually gonna make you just kill yourself with the laundry.
You know, you make a fair argument. I think that's what would happen.
Yeah. But unfortunately, despite its honest intentions in the beginning of housing people who needed specialized care, Pennhurst became increasingly overcrowded very quickly. And so its good intentions didn't last very long. In either 1912 or 1913, I couldn't find the exact date, or there was tremendous pressure to admit many different persons whom society, who at the time was steeped in the eugenics movement, wanted removed from the gene pool. So the legislature appointed a commission for the care of the feeble-minded, which stated that disabled people were unfit for citizenship and posed a menace to the peace, and thus recommended a program of custodial care.
Man, you know what? I'm going to say it. I know I don't say this stuff often, but in February, I believe there's an executive order that deemed autistic people as a dire threat to national security.
Yeah, this is giving 1912, 1913.
Yeah, I wonder if certain things of today quite mirror the eugenics movement of the 20s.
Yeah. So, furthermore, the commission desired to prevent the intermixing of the genes of those who were imprisoned with the general population. In the biennial report to the legislator, this was something that was submitted to the Board of Trustees of Pennhurst biennially. I don't know what that is. It's not annually, biennially. I don't know what that means.
Biannually, is that like every other year?
Biennial? Biennial? Not annual.
Wait, spell that again? B-I.
Every 2 years, yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, Frank was right.
In a report submitted by the Board of Trustees, Pennhurst's chief physician quoted Henry H. Goddard, a leading eugenist,
Oh, this
as follows.
guy. This guy.
Yeah. Every feeble-minded person is a potential criminal. The general public, although more convinced today than ever before that it is a good thing to segregate the idiot or the distinct imbecile, they have not as yet been convinced as to the proper treatment of the defective delinquent, which is the brighter and more dangerous individual.
All right, can I get on my soapbox real quick?
Sure.
All right, so I believe this is the guy that was like the biggest name in most of the eugenics movement, right?
Even I recommend it, or I recognize the name.
Yeah, so
I'm not very good at
obviously
history.
not everybody has access to this. There is this other podcast called QAA. They have Patreon where they have some limited series on Patreon. One of them, they have 2 seasons called Trickle Down with Travis View, and he does an episode on eugenics. If I'm not mistaken, Godfrey was like the father of the eugenics movement.
Yeah, he was.
His whole entire study was insanely flawed, potentially all just fabricated. And there's such a good deep dive on the QAA Patreon about this. If anyone here listens to them,
And if you don't, go listen to them. It's a fantastic
yeah,
podcast.
I mean it's a good podcast too. Their Patreon $5 a month. I'm a member, but that eugenics episode is so good, Sage. I think you need to listen to it. I don't.
Yeah, after reading about like this through the Pennhurst, just knowing that history is so close to home for us, like I definitely think I'm interested in learning more about that, especially with the way the world is going right now.
Listen to Travis View's Trickle Down series. All it is about how originally good ideas trickled down to some of the worst things possible.
Trickle down economics.
Trickle down bad ideas works. Trickle down economics don't. Like there were some genuine intentions originally behind the eugenics movement, but you just look into it so bad. It's like how there's interesting baby formula is being trickled down to poor product in some areas of the world too. I learned it through there, but sorry, that's just me on my soapbox. But okay. Godfrey's, that's right. Goddard, sorry. Goddard's, it's flawed. It's such flawed science, but we worked off of it for decades.
Yep.
And some people still try and defend it to today.
Yeah. And so in 1916, so only 110-ish years ago, more buildings called cottages were planned and constructed to segregate the women from the men, in what was likely an effort to prevent unplanned pregnancies. Because what's important to remember is that, like, this comes from, I work as a forensic therapist, so I work with sex offenders who are likely either on probation and they, like, that's how they're being treated, whatever. This is their rehabilitation. These people were human beings, and all human beings, for the most part, outside of probably people who are like asexual, have sexual feelings. It's very normal. Everybody has them. Like, it's healthy to have sexual feelings. You literally would not be here without someone who had sexual feelings outside, with the exceptions. So I can see, I guess, I can see why they would want to have, like, the possibility of an unplanned pregnancy is possible because these people are human, right? The reasons for why they don't want the unplanned pregnancies, though, are pretty sick.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm assuming it's to not make more as what they would call feeble-minded children.
Yep.
Because it's genetic at that point. They believe it's all genetics.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you are basically abusing these people. Now, I would say, keep the men and women separate because you're creating an abusive environment.
Absolutely.
And you're going to create a cycle of abuse because this is me being an armchair psychologist here. You're the actual one. But you abuse them, I believe they're more likely to abuse others.
Yeah.
And so
it's a cycle. That's why we call it a cycle.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's a smart idea to separate them. But as you said, they didn't do it for that intention.
Yeah.
They did it for all different purposes, which is not the right thing. Right result, wrong reasoning. Trickle down.
So it was a way of preventing what they, preventing passing on what they considered to be imbecile genes. And again, Henry Goddard from earlier was quoted for this, saying, and this is particularly, harsh. So just, hold on to your butts, as Morbid would say.
Or as they say in Jurassic Park.
Yes.
That's where that comes from.
Nice. It is now generally understood that feeble-mindedness is in the great majority of instances the direct result of hereditary transmission of mental defect. It is also known that the feeble-minded female is very likely to bear children, and that these children are almost certain to be defective or in some way permanently dependent. The feeble-minded girl is more of a menace to society than the feeble-minded boy. Statistics show that feeble-minded girls and boys marry in the ratio of 3 to 1. It would seem, therefore, that if the state is not adequately equipped to care for all of the feeble-minded, the feeble-minded girl should have institutional care in preference to the feeble-minded boy, since she is the greater menace.
So basically, women dumber than men, women the threat society, specifically dumb women.
This is so fascinating to me, in a really morbid way, because this is the same kind of shit that happens today with birth controls and, the pro-choice, pro-life movements. What people fail to remember is that a woman can only birth one child every 9 months. Okay? But a man could impregnate 20 women a day if he really wanted to. But yet the girl is more of a menace to society because she will have a baby. Why are we not telling the boys to stop? Why would we not keep the boys out?
Because he can't eat pretzels anymore the same way. Huh? You know what I'm referencing? What was his name? Brock Turner, the Stanford guy. A letter was written to the judge about how he couldn't eat pretzels the same way anymore. He's devastated. Doesn't eat pretzels right.
So terrible.
I know, ruined his life. Thank God he only got probation. God, that was an awful miscarriage of justice. Also, because sorry, I keep rambling and on tangents and making comments. How close are we into the spooky?
There's not a lot of spooky.
Not a lot of spooky?
No. And that's the thing, is that when I was researching this, is that there's very little actual things about this place being haunted. It's more that it's, dilapidated and creepy.
So...
And it holds a lot of negative energy.
It sounds like Eastern State, Ohio State Reformatory, and Cecil Hotel all over again, all your episodes.
Sorry.
You find the most creepy places, there ain't much, but it's a really fucked up history.
Yeah, so honestly, this is more of a dark history rather than a haunting.
You know what? I'm here for it, too.
Thank you. So the language used by the Commission to describe disabled residents as unfit for citizenship is hauntingly familiar to similar language used by the disgraced Supreme Court Chief Justice Roger Taney in the Dred Scott versus Sanford
oh God, that
case,
decision.
60 years and 600,000 Civil War soldiers dead earlier. The Dred Scott decision held that African Americans were, quote, beings of an inferior order, although altogether unfit to associate with the white race either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect, and therefore unfit for citizenship. These same philosophies were used to justify the forced institutionalization of persons with disabilities as a means to keep them from associating in social or political relations.
Why do we keep going back in this country to fucking taking away people's rights and not counting them as people? Gotta label them with something else instead of human.
Yeah.
I,
Fortunately for all...
I almost use examples, but I'm like, I cannot say any of those terms.
Yeah. Fortunately for all, the eugenics movement was relatively short-lived in the United States, in part because of the horrific acts by the Nazi regime in Germany. So because people saw like what the eugenics movement was capable of, it kind of made it more short-lived here. So at the very least, I guess it's a good thing the U.S. had some kind of moral superiority over Nazi Germany, but it kind of seems like we're headed back that way anyway, so I can't really say that.
Look, I'll always say this, and this is going to be taken possibly the wrong way by some. If you could go back in time and stop World War II, would you do it? No. Because we learned a lot of lessons there, or else we would have just slow crept back to where we're at there, or even worse.
We're even there anyway.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think about that with my life. Like, this is not to get on my own therapy here, but like I experienced a lot of abuse and what we would call ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, when I was younger, and I have always said that I would never change the way that I was raised because it made me the person that I am today. Like the person who wants to help others, the person who wants to be a therapist. Like I broke that cycle.
There's always good and the bad.
Yeah. That is actually a theory called logotherapy. It comes from logotherapy and existentialism. It comes from Viktor Frankl, who was a doctor of psychology, who was a survivor of the Holocaust. And so his theory was that he was going to use his horrific experience in the Holocaust to, like, be better for other people. And it's the theory that, like, you've been put through trials to help other people through similar trials, essentially. Go read his book. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. It's absolutely wonderful. So highly recommend. So back to, regular scheduled programming. In May 1930, another biennial report of the Board of Trustees was published. It noted that 1,247 individuals were currently in residence at Pennhurst, with 192 employees. So roughly
How many?
192 employees.
How many residents?
1,247. So it's roughly 6 or 7 employees per patient. Though not all of the staff was working directly with the patients. So you got to think that that's probably double, if not triple, for the actual people, like the nurses and things like that. The report is quoted as stating, quote, however, the present conditions of overcrowding will continue with many more applications for admission than we're able to accept. The need of additional buildings for both boys and girls is manifest at all times by reason of the many applications for admission to our institution. We therefore feel that it is in the line of the economy for the legislature to supply additional capacity in this school to meet this increasing demand for the support, care, and trainings of these unfortunate children. It was reported that at the time, there were 900 applications for admission on file, with new applications coming in at a rate of 250 per year. 240 individuals were admitted during the 2-year period covered by the report. How freaking sad is it that many people were trying to admit their child into an institution rather than just loving them at home?
Well, I mean, you look at stuff like the Kennedys, where they sent their one daughter. A lot of people didn't want it to be known that they had, in their term, feeble-minded individuals in their family and tainting the bloodline, so they hid them away. So I'm guessing a lot of statistics are off for what mental illness you had back then.
Yeah, and I think that plays into a lot of the things today where people are like, oh, we have more cases being diagnosed today. No, we didn't. Freaking Fred. We have, it all existed. It's hidden. It was not talked about. No one wanted to talk about it. Nobody was getting their kids diagnosed. Your grandfather who has a coin collection or whatever, that's autism, my friend. Okay?
What flavor autism is that?
Yeah, what flavor of autism is that?
I saw that today on Reddit. Somebody on the Phasmophobia subreddit did an alphabet of something for everything in the game for every letter. And the top comment is, what flavor of autism is this? And someone goes, it's orange flavored.
So, Pennhurst population ends up peaking at around 3,500 patients. And so 2 new annexes of the facility are opened in former tuberculosis sanitariums, one located just west of Gettysburg and the other in Whitehaven, which
What?
is near Scranton.
Ooh, The Office. Also, what are these sanatoriums? Did you get their names before?
I didn't get the names of them from originally, but I do have what they turned into. So the availability of this additional capacity allowed the population of Pennhurst to grow to 4,100 individuals, since those facilities were under supervision of the Pennhurst administration. But the number of people actually living at Pennhurst was about 3,200 by 1961. The other 900 or so, were at the other places.
So 3,200. That's just patients.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And then those 2 annexes eventually get spun off from Pennhurst in 1961, and they become the Hamburg.
Hamburger.
We had hamburgers today for Mother's Day. The Hamburg and Whitehaven State Schools. So that's what they turned into.
Hamburger State School.
Yeah.
So they got spun off still being reformatories.
Yeah, they were state schools.
Or asylum.
Yeah.
Wow,
That's a fancy name for...
What an innocent name for a way you cart off your kid to get tortured.
Yep. So, in 1966, a new Mental Health and Mental Retardation Act was passed. I know. That's why I'm saying I don't condone this language.
You caught me off guard on that one.
I know, I don't condone this language. Was passed by the PA legislature. For the first time, this was actually positive, it authorized the provision of some services in community settings and established a network of county-managed base service units that would serve as gateways to the service system. So what that essentially means is it's like there'd be first resort interventions and resources within the community before sending individuals to places like Pennhurst and other asylums.
Important name, good idea.
Well, at the time, that's what they used.
I know.
And even then, like up until just a couple years ago, that's what we were using.
There's still a current fight to use that word again.
Yeah. So now to the downfall of Pennhurst Asylum.
You're telling me it already wasn't in a kind of downfall?
For
the patients, at least.
Yeah. In 1968, a 5-part television news report titled "Suffer the Little Children" was aired on local CBS channels.
What?
And the WCAU-TV.
Suffer the Little Children.
Yeah. It was hosted by local CBS correspondent Bill Baldini, who worked to expose the horrific conditions at the Pennhurst facility. He's reported as saying, quote, "We started shooting and my crew was mortified. I mean, I had trouble keeping them on the job because they were literally getting sick from what they saw. And what they saw was really nauseating and horrifying. Children were tied to beds. They were emaciated and naked. Wards of infants and children from the age of 6 months to 5 years were clustered together in metal cages. Some people were even left to lie in their own waste for days on end. They were malnourished and subjected to many diverse methods of physical and emotional abuse." Absolutely fucking horrific.
Oh my. I get why they weren't happy with it, because that's
fucking horrific.
Yeah.
Kids in metal cages? This is me tilting my head?
Yeah, yeah.
It's horrible.
God.
Yeah. So, this would be the first time that the conditions at Pennhurst would be shown to the general public, but it was not the first time that people had attempted to expose the failings of the facility. Numerous newspaper articles, legislative inquiries, and other investigations had been focused on Pennhurst, beginning right after the facility opened, which showcased that despite the good intentions in the beginning, there was very little that was done to keep the facility appropriate for mental health care. The fact that new exposés arose on a regular basis is evidence that very little was done to ever alter the way that the facility was run.
You're telling me that they kept writing about, kept exposing it, and they were like, "Oh, we're just going to keep running."
Yep.
No one did anything?
Yep. On May 30th of 1974, so nearly 6 years to the day after that docuseries aired, the landmark civil rights case of Halderman versus Pennhurst State School gets filed by the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of PA by a mother of Pennhurst resident Terry Lee Halderman. The suit started after Halderman had visited her parents at home and was found to have unexplained bruises. According to one source, Terry Lee's medical records indicated she had over 40 reported injuries sustained while at Pennhurst.
Now, do they know if these are by like staff or other patients?
Both. Which actually I'm about to get in. I'll get into in a little bit.
I'm ahead of the game.
Yep. And it was assigned to District Judge, or it was assigned to Raymond Broderick. In November of 74, the United States of America moved to intervene as a plaintiff in the Halderman case. The USA's motion to intervene was granted in 1975, and 6 months later, the Pennsylvania Association of Retarded Citizens, represented by the Public Interest Law Center of Philadelphia, or PILCOP, moved to intervene in the Halderman versus Pennhurst case as well. The Pennsylvania Association of Retarded Citizens motion add 5 counties in southeastern PA as defendants in the case, and they seek community placement for all of the residents at Pennhurst, and that ends up being granted.
So that they were against Pennhurst.
No, they were for They were against Pennhurst. They wanted people out of Pennhurst.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure, because sometimes people make those societies to give them a nice flashy name, but in support of...
No, they wanted everybody to be placed in the community, which ends up happening. The Halderman versus Pennhurst case was tried beginning in April of 1977, and the Honorable Raymond Broderick ended up ruling in favor of the residents of Pennhurst and declared that the forced institutionalization of persons with disabilities is unconstitutional. The district court determined that Pennhurst provided such a dangerous, miserable environment for its residents that many of them actually suffered physical deterioration and intellectual regression during their stay at the institution. He found that various forms of restraints were used as a result of the lack of staff, including seclusion rooms, physical restraints, and even psychotropic drugs and chemical restraints. So they were giving them drugs to restrain them. The environment of the building was found to be hazardous to the extent that it was not only not conducive to learning new skills, but it is so poor that it contributes to losing skills already learned. Residents were also found to have been abused by other residents, as well as the staff. Other problems at the facility was that there were no psychologists on duty at Pennhurst at night or over the weekend. So if a resident had an emotional crisis or something like that, they would go without treatment till the next morning until after the weekend's over. That's why they would detain them, they'd restrain them.
What? This is crazy.
Yeah. Living spaces were locked from the outside to prevent patients from leaving their rooms and would often be locked in there for hours at a time. I can understand why you would have the locks like that, because you don't want people just randomly getting out, but that's still horrible. That is definitely more prison cell than it is rehab. In 1984, the final settlement agreement between the Halderman versus Pennhurst parties provided for the closure of Pennhurst. The agreement was approved by District Court in April 1985. It would take a few years, but the facility was ultimately closed in 1987. The 1,156 people who lived there on the date of the court's order, March 17, 1978, moved into small community homes called community living arrangements. These settings supported 3 or fewer people with 24-hour staffing if needed. The process of deinstitutionalization required 9 years. That's why it started on March 17, 1978 and didn't end until 1987. It took 9 years to deinstitutionalize this place.
Damn.
And because they had to find places for everybody with that 24-hour care, but it also included discussion of treatment plans with each person and family so that everyone was aware of how their family was going to be treated. Also in 1981, a Time magazine article described Pennhurst as having a history of being understaffed, dirty, and violent. Again, more things coming out about it. In June of 1982, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in the case of Romeo versus Youngberg, a suit filed by the mother of an individual who received several serious injuries after his commitment to Pennhurst, that the Constitution imparts a right to, quote, minimally adequate treatment for people involuntarily committed to state institutions. The court defines the rights of such involuntarily committed persons to a right to be free from, quote, unreasonable bodily restraints and to a reasonably safe environment and whatever minimal training might be required to protect those interests. The defendants, who at the time were several Pennhurst employees, had prevailed at trial, but the trial results were overturned by the Third Circuit Court and ordered a new trial to be held. The case was then settled before another trial was scheduled, meaning that a settlement was had instead of the employees facing charges. However, there were employees who did face charges. So in 1983, 9 asylum employees were indicted on charges of abuse against the residents of Pennhurst. Assistant Attorney General William Bradford Reynolds, head of the department's Civil Rights Division, said the charges resulted from a year-long inquiry by the FBI and were based in part on the work of an undercover police officer. He was reported as saying, quote, "I fully recognize that employees of mental institutions have difficult and demanding jobs, but they cannot abuse citizens who are among the most defenseless in our society." Which is a good man. I'm going to tell you who the defendants were. Debbie A. Belinsky of Phoenixville, PA. She was 26 and accused of causing one patient to beat and physically abuse another. Martha L. Conrad of Schwenksville, what a name, PA. 27, accused of assaulting and injuring a patient. Gregory A. Diericks of Spring City, PA. 25, accused of 2 counts of physically abusing 2 patients. Hastings J. Dice of Schwenksville, PA. 43, accused in 10 counts of beating 9 patients. Stephen G. Dice of Schwenksville, PA. 25, accused of 4 counts of physically abusing 3 patients. I think that they could have been father-son. Kevin Peace of Pottstown, PA. 23, accused of 3 counts of beating 1 patient and slapping and physically abusing another. Cecil L. Snell Jr. of Pottstown, PA. 22, accused of 2 counts of beating and assaulting patients in wheelchairs. Margaret C. Wisniewski of Phoenixville, PA. 52, accused of assaulting a patient. She was only the only one of the 9 defendants that was still employed at Pennhurst because she contested her firing and won. And
What?
so they brought her back on staff. And then lastly, we have Harold Yost of Pottstown, PA, who's 46, who was accused of 2 counts of assaulting and beating patients. So they faced prison time for those.
So did all of them do time?
I honestly didn't look that much into it. It was very upsetting to me. I was
Fair
trying,
enough.
If you're interested, please go look. So, a few other interesting pieces before I do get into the hauntings. Going back in our timeline by a few years, the Pennsylvania Association for Retarded Citizens versus the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is filed in district court and sought access to public education for all children. In their lawsuit, the ARC challenged the constitutionality of a state law allowing de jure exclusion of children with intellectual disabilities from school. The statute assigned the responsibility for children with intellectual disabilities to the Department of Public Welfare. As a result of exclusion from school, large numbers of children with disabilities were institutionalized while they were still at school age. The case was then resolved in 1972 in a consent decree that established the rights of all children with intellectual disabilities to have the right to attend public schools. So that I thought was interesting. In December of 1973, another case about Pennhurst made it to the Supreme Court and was titled Salter versus Brennan, and the ruling upheld a lower court's determination that the minimum wage and overtime compensation provisions of the Fair Labor Standards Act apply to persons residing in state-operated facilities for persons with mental retardation and mental illness who provide work that would otherwise be done by paid employees. The ruling put an end to, is it peonage? Is that how you said it?
What?
Peonage? Peonage?
PEO?
Nage?
I don't know.
Peonage. The practice of using the unpaid labor of residents to operate facilities such as Pennhurst, and makes the continued operation of such facilities increasingly more expensive, which added to the many issues that Pennhurst already had, but it also decreased the number of people who were doing unpaid labor. So, obviously, the horrific history of this asylum has left its negative imprint on the buildings and the spaces on the grounds of the Pennhurst Asylum lot. After Pennhurst closed its doors in 1987, the once overcrowded asylum became abandoned. Nature began to reclaim the buildings, with vines and roots intertwining through the structures as if trying to erase the memory of the horror that stained the walls. Inside the buildings are no stranger to decay either, as the hallways are filled with relics of the past. Rusted wheelchairs, old laundry carts, layers of graffiti. Think like an abandoned hospital, and the first image that comes to mind is exactly what this looks like. So, just think that way. So, paranormal enthusiasts and ghost hunters alike seek to connect with the restless spirits that are trapped within the walls and rooms of Pennhurst. Staff and caretakers frequently report eerie occurrences, such as slamming doors, disembodied footsteps, and voices echoing through empty corridors. There's also reports of sounds of vomiting and crying being heard from seemingly empty rooms, which is just horrific. I reading through these, I really hope that these are just residual hauntings and not the way that the individuals who were basically imprisoned here are spending their afterlives. The most frequently reported apparition that I was able to find information on, and even then I didn't find very much, was that of a little girl who appeared lost and confused while wandering the Pennhurst campus, which, if you ask me, is just very devastating. Other reports are that the sounds of children playing and crying are also heard. Most of the spirits are believed to be benign, seeking to communicate their stories to the living and share with them the anguish and hardship they've experienced over their time at Pennhurst. However, that doesn't stop people from having more sinister activities. So there have been alleged instances of satanic rituals and worship on the property. That was all I was able to find about that. So, not sure.
Is that like actual or?
Yes, that's not a part of the haunted attractions.
No, I mean like, sorry, they say that there's been satanic activity.
Yeah, alleged.
Satanic panic much?
Could be.
That's
especially in the 90s.
Yeah. Now, again, did people actually die here?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm sure they definitely at least didn't live. Not the way they should have been able to.
Yeah.
So, the emotional weight of Pennhurst's history is palpable. The residual energy of suffering and neglect permeates the walls, floors, and ceilings. The hauntings and unexplained activity reported at the site today serve as a chilling reminder of the lives lost and the injustices that were endured by those who were sent to this institution at the behest of their families who were unwilling to care for them. So, very sad. I do have some stuff about Pennhurst today, but I wanted to get your thoughts first on like the Pennhurst history.
That's fucked up, yo.
It is.
Holy.
It was really hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I love true crime. It's easy for me to do true crime, because I know it. This was really hard for me to research.
Yeah, I like doing cryptids, like the ahoo and stuff like that. Not.
What's your next episode?
Yeah, UFO one.
Okay, we need a palate cleanser for sure.
Yeah, I almost did a I almost did a serial killer one, but I realized, let me change course when I'm already partially through my research.
Sorry.
It's okay.
But anyway, any other thoughts?
On the haunting aspect, you didn't really have much to say.
No, I really couldn't find much, to be honest.
Have any people like Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures done this?
I think that I did write. Someone was able. Destination Fear was there.
Is that Josh Gates?
Yeah.
Did they find anything interesting?
Not that I saw, really. But I didn't see much of any other.
You know, I won't keep thinking of Josh Gates now to the fact that we saw a clip from an episode yesterday that said, "It's hammer time." Now, kids, don't ask your... Did he say, kids, don't ask your parents what that means?
No, he said, kids, ask your parents what that means.
Okay, yeah.
Stop. Hammer time. But, anyway.
I do think this could be a haunted place.
I'm sure that it is, but I also appreciate that there was more focus on the dark history of it rather than the hauntings. And that's not to say that I don't agree with the way that places like Eastern State Penitentiary, Ohio State Reformatory, Cecil, like things like that, and their hauntings are talked about, because I am somebody who, like, is a paranormal enthusiast, and I love going and ghost hunting and things like that. But I don't want to say that these people had it worse than the prisoners did, but this was children. This was a place for children whose families didn't want them, and for some reason, that's just.
Wait, was it children and adults, or just children?
It was children and adults,
okay.
But like people got sent there as kids and then lived the rest of their lives there.
Which is fucked up.
Yeah, and that to me just made it so much harder to think about it in a paranormal sense, because I really don't want to think about kids being stuck there.
All right, yikes.
Yeah.
Let's next haunting. Let's do something again like the Stanley Hotel, where it's like kind of more lighthearted.
An actual haunting, yeah.
Yeah, this one where I thought there was going to be more to the haunting from you, but no, it was more just let me traumatize you.
Yeah, well, if I have to be
thanks, honey.
You do too.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Maybe we'll have more when we leave Pennhurst next weekend.
More traumatization or paranormal experience?
More paranormal experience.
Okay, I thought you would be like, we're going to get traumatized more next weekend.
I hope not.
Yeah, we're going to go with our friends, have a nice dinner after, and be like, let's all unpack the trauma, guys.
Yeah. Pennhurst today. In 2001, Pennsylvania adopted what's called the Keystone Principles, which indicate what the state's duty is in maintaining historic properties. There was then also a meeting with the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission to discuss the possibility of transferring the Pennhurst property into private hands. Chester County officials approved a private development, and then so Pennhurst was sold to a developer, Pennhurst Associates, for $2 million. The Pennhurst Memorial and Preservation Alliance, or PMPA, was formed to advocate for certain uses of the site, because there were many who did not believe that the site was being used in a sensitive manner. And they urged decision makers to capitalize on its unique history and architectural features for the benefit of the region. So, representatives from several major disability advocacy organizations, preservation experts, and local residents joined the PMPA board and advisory council to bring a unique perspective to the use of Pennhurst and the memories of those who were housed there. It was added to Pennsylvania's list of the most at-risk Pennsylvania properties, and in January of 2009, Pennhurst, through PMPA, becomes a member of the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience, a worldwide network of historic sites specifically dedicated to remembering struggles for justice. In partnership with the Preservation Alliance for Greater Philadelphia, PMPA obtained a grant to complete a reuse, design, and feasibility study of the Pennhurst campus. However, by 2010, to the shock and dismay of many, especially those in the disabilities community, Pennhurst owners worked with Randy Bates of the Bates Motel Halloween attraction to turn Pennhurst's historic lower campus, including the administration building, into a commercial Halloween haunted attraction. The attraction had been successful, though very controversial among locals and those previously who affiliated with Pennhurst. Because remember, there's people who are affiliated with Pennhurst that are likely still alive today. PMPA members were not the only people to protest the misrepresentation and disrespect of Pennhurst's history in the haunted attraction. Disability studies historian Sarah Hanley Cousins reflected on the continuing fascination of such sites, saying, quote, "I like a ghost story as much as anyone, but the patients who lived at Pennhurst weren't spooky spirits. They were human beings with complex lives." Which I very much agree, and I appreciated that quote, and that is why I put that in here. I want everybody to remember that when we think about things that are haunted, and spaces that are very sad. These were people. In 2017, the ownership of Pennhurst LLC changed. The new owner and general manager have personal connections to the disability community. So, aware of the unintended consequences of a completed story, they changed features of the attraction and empowered a group of disabled performers to have creative control, giving the new haunted attraction a second look. Sternberg, a doctoral candidate in theater and performance historiography, board member of the PMPA, and a disabled scholar himself, has spent many hours of field work at the Pennhurst site and the asylum attraction. In his words, the asylum attraction does not simply commodify atrocity, but offers a space where disabled, enabled people use performance as both self-expression and knowledge-making in a site once designed for their segregation and slow death. Several of the haunters work giving historical tours of the campus when they're not performing at the attraction. Starting in 2017, then, bookings for daytime history tours, photography tours, and overnight paranormal investigations became available through the Haunted Attractions website, and proceeds from the tours go towards the upkeep of the grounds and restoration of the remaining buildings on site. And this year, Pennhurst is hosting what they're calling the Pennhurst Paracon and Oddities Expo on May 17th and 18th, so this coming weekend from when this episode's released. And they label it as a 2-day paranormal enthusiast and oddities expo event featuring vendors, psychics, special guests, historical tours, and paranormal investigations. Meet in-person special guests like ghost hunters, Destination Fear, kindred spirits, and more. And so that will be the event that Frank and I are going to this coming weekend.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm excited for the oddities part of it too, which I know that our friend that we're going with is also going to be really excited about that. So, any thoughts on Pennhurst as a haunted attraction?
I think it's interesting. I just hate whenever you kind of tear down the past,
Yeah.
glorify it. I'd like to keep it how it is. I would like how some places make it a temporary thing, not a permanent, and that's what I don't care for, is when you make it permanent.
Yeah, like Waverly Hills, they do it just during the month of October.
Yeah, same with Eastern State.
Yeah. So just a few last things here, pop culture really. So the Travel Channel's television show Destination Fear filmed at the location for the 5th episode of their first season in 2019. On June 8th, 2021, heavy metal band Motionless in White performed their Deadstream 2 live at Pennhurst concert on the grounds in front of the main building entrance, and it was streamed the following day. I wish I had known that because I love them. I know Frank definitely doesn't, but for all my heavy metal Motionless in White fans out there, holla at your girl. She loves music like that.
Do they
And if
still do concerts there besides that?
I think so. I mean, this was in 2021. A fictional version of Pennhurst appears in the 2019 film Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was filmed at the abandoned St. Thomas Psychiatric Hospital in Ontario, Canada.
I read the Scary Stories Telling Dark books for book club earlier this year.
Did you know that Pennhurst was
Used for filming?
No, it's a fictional version of Pennhurst is in one of the stories.
No, I didn't realize that was a fictional version of Pennhurst. I do remember which scene you're talking about. God, that movie was both good and bad at the same time.
Pennhurst was also the basis for a fictional asylum, also named Pennhurst, that appears in the 4th season of the Netflix series Stranger Things, which I would know about. I didn't watch
I'm sorry.
it.
I'm so sorry that I, in college, when we were 6 hours apart, started the 2nd season without you.
Yeah, and now I won't watch it.
You wouldn't want to watch it regardless because you get too scared.
Yeah, no, I definitely
Baby, wah, 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 big baby.
I'll end this right here, right now.
The marriage or the episode?
All of the above.
Please no.
Yeah, I'm kidding. So Pennhurst figures significantly in the novel The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, released in 2023 by author James McBride, which I've definitely heard that name before. I've seen that on Book Talk. So go check that out. So just a little, closing statement here. I really highly encourage everyone to check out the Pennhurst Memorial and Preservation Alliance webpage, that'll be linked below, for their work on preserving the delicate yet incomprehensible history of Pennhurst Asylum. Today, Pennhurst serves both as a haunted attraction and a somber memorial to those who endured unimaginable hardships. It stands as a stark reminder of the past, urging us never to forget the lessons learned from such institutional failures. And I hope that for the sake of this world and the country of the United States, that we do learn from this failure and we do not allow history to repeat itself.
I agree. I heavily agree on that.
And so that is what I have for you about the history of Pennhurst.
Well, that's I won't need a moment to sit down after this.
Yeah. Me too. I needed a moment yesterday. We were going to record yesterday because right now we're recording on Mother's Day. We were going to record yesterday, but after finishing this, truthfully, I just needed to honestly nap. Any other final thoughts?
No, I got none myself. That's really fucked up, right? Like what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So if you want to close this out, go ahead.
So, like always, if you like what you're seeing, follow us on our socials, our Blue Sky or our Instagram. Our Instagram is Unknown Unsolved Unseen Podcast, and our Blue Sky is Triple U Pod. If you really enjoy it, go check it out and give us a follow, like, whatever. And on top of that, if you are really enjoying the podcast, give us a like, follow, subscribe, comment, review on whatever platform you listen on. Helps out. Every little bit means a lot to us. We really appreciate all of it, guys. Keep up the support. We want to keep seeing the growth, keep seeing the collabs, keep seeing everything. We like it all. So check that out. And also, Windy City Parafest, as you've heard before, June 12th to 15th. If you're interested, go to the link in the show notes or our Instagram and go give it a look. If you want to do live stream tickets, use code UUU for 10% off your live stream tickets. We greatly appreciate it. and they would appreciate it too. It's going to be a great time. We're going to be joining on the live stream too. So hopefully you guys will be on there as well. Once again, use code UUU for 10% off your live stream tickets. With that being said, that is about it then for today from me as well.
All
Sage,
right.
ready to sign us off?
Let's do it.
Right. And remember,
To look for
the unknown
the unsolved.
and the unseen.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, guys.
Get a snack and hug your loved ones.
That too, yeah. Don't be mean to people.